Hey everybody, welcome to the Bridge the Gap DFS Podcast. Very excited about our guest today. Before we get into that, I just want to thank everybody for stopping by. You guys have been incredibly supportive thus far with our guests that we've had and getting into our NFL previews. So I really appreciate you guys just being here for us. And it's with great excitement that our guest joins us today. This guy has been incredibly integral with the creative work behind the site. He's pretty much the pseudo creative director behind everything that we've been doing. I'll give him an idea and I'm just, I draw stick figures and I'm not that artistically inclined, and I'll just say like, hey, you know what, this is the idea that I'm thinking for the podcast art. And oh, by the way, I see that you're a musician. Would you like to collaborate on something? And he was generous enough to let me use one of his songs for the intro music. And about twice an episode, you guys are commenting on how much that you love the song, and I just think it's perfect for what we're trying to do. And I'm just very excited to have this guy on. I've been watching that show on Netflix, Last Chance U, the last couple weeks, and the coach on the latest season, he refers to himself as a stone cold hustler, and I can't think of a better way to introduce our guest. Welcoming to our show is one of my favorites in the industry, our boy Sequence CSC. Sequence, what's up, my man?
Yeah, I take it back like overalls with one strap. Junior high, acting fly, spitting my first rap. Burn CDs outside of the promo, sticker with the TNC Surf Design logo. Girls so confused because I'm rocking it right here. Somewhere in between a Pabst Smear and a Pabst beer. I don't really know how I'm rocking it right here. Summer slumber and I woke up right here. Yes. Now I remember everything. Photo booth cam, man, no heavy editing. Low life with one mic, so hold tight. You can bump this all night. Thumbs up, thumbs down, like or dislike. Monitor, monikers, splurge, and pick fights. Walk in on the place, break a few things. Bronx tail talk like now you can't leave. Like a healthy Marcus can be. It's up in the air so high you can't see. Locked out with no doubt. You deserve more, kid. Go ahead and hold out. No clouds, just someone I'm walking. Match close to the frame of my frog skins. Let's go, chips roll, I'm all in. Let the cards speak, you're done enough talking. What's up, JG? Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Dude, my man, like everything you do is fire. Like I'm going to break the fire emoji on my phone with just every interaction. You just like, I talk about all the time, like if you want 100, bring 100, be 100. And like you are in everything, man. I just appreciate you so much, dude.
Hey, no, thank you, man. Thank you for having me on. I'm so glad I got to connect with you, from like your YouTube videos to the information you share on Twitter to the coaching calls and now to this podcast. Like you have done so much for this DFS community, and like you just have helped me so much in becoming a better player. And I know I speak for a lot of people, a lot of your followers when I say that. So thank you, man.
I've had a lot of great mentors in this industry, and most of them have been very generous with their time. And I'm just trying to do my part to pay it forward to keep this thing that we love going so much. And I just appreciate that you just keep everything that next level. Yesterday we came across an opportunity to work on something together, like last minute, late at night, and I was like, hey, can you, is this something you want to do? And you're like, dude, I'm on it. And we're like working on, so like, I think it was midnight my time, 10:30 your time. So it's just like, I just appreciate like that kind of commitment and dedication to the craft. And it's very important for me to have you on and talk to you about your story. Cause I just think it's so incredibly cool, the different backgrounds that people come from playing this game. And, in our society that's, everything's so divisive that it's so refreshing to be able to let's just talk about this thing that we like, and let's be positive about it. And what can we learn from each other? And, we have a similar mentor in Manny, and we he puts out most of his stuff every single day for free, and everything that he does is community supported for the most part. And I just think that there's something so refreshing about that model, man. And I reached out to you for some help with the intro music, and you're like, dude, you can have anything from my library. And I was just going through it, and you have a ton of great songs, man. But I came across this song, and it was like, I got goosebumps right away. I was just like, this is this is it. This is the song. This is perfect. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that track and what went into the track? There's some awesome vocals. The verses on it are just straight fire. What was the inspiration that led to that track that we used for the intro music?
That song was part of the EP that wasn't even supposed to happen. Like, I reached out to my friend Damon, who is the other rapper that's featured on that EP, all 5 songs. And I was initially just working on a solo project, and I wanted to get Damon featured on one of my songs. So I made a beat. I had my lyrics done. I had a chorus done. And I asked Damon, I sent the song to Damon and asked him if he wanted to be on it. And he said, yeah. So he came to the studio. He recorded his parts. And that was it. We had one song down. And after that, he was like, do you have any more beats? He's like, maybe we should make another song together. And I was like, okay, cool. As a matter of fact, I have an old beat. I haven't really done anything with it. I'll send it to you. Let me know what you think. And if you like it, we could record a song over that beat too. So I sent it to him. He liked that. And we recorded that immediately. So then we had 2 songs together. And he had mentioned he had an inbox full of beats. And he's like, do you mind if we go through these and then we could work on a few more songs together and maybe we just put out an EP? I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. So Special was one of the beats he had in his inbox. And it was one of the songs he kind of had already been working on. He already had an idea for the song. He had a chorus down. And so we got together and worked on that song. And the last missing piece was to get a female vocalist to sing the chorus. And I reached out to my friend Britt, who is very talented. She's into music. She's into acting. She's very busy. So it just worked out to where I had texted her during a week where she had time away from her busy schedule. And she was able to record her parts very quickly, send them back to me. And everything fell in place. That song was finished. We finished 2 more songs. We had 5 songs total. My friend, who is an excellent photographer, was in to do the cover shoot for us, the photo for the cover of our EP. Damon also had 2 girls who were into modeling who volunteered to be models for the photo shoot. So just everything worked out. We had a 5-song EP done in 2 or 3 months. Everything just clicked. And so Special was a song on that EP. And I think the whole EP came out really well. I'm very happy with it.
That's awesome, man. Can you talk a little bit more about the content into the song? Because, I have this podcast about DFS, and it's a song largely about relationships. And I just thought it was incredibly applicable. DFS is that thing. It is that relationship that you love, but you hate it, and it's a struggle, but there's nothing like it. And that's what keeps us coming back to more. So talk us a little bit about the inspiration to the lyrics on the track.
Yeah, so the song is broken up. The first verse is the bad side of the relationship. And the first verse the first verse is just the bad side of the relationship, and the second verse is the good side of the relationship. And all relationships are a good balance between the good and the bad. And then the chorus just kind of ties everything together. With the good and the bad, it's something that you still want to be a part of, and it's still pulling you back in. And at the end of the day, it's a beautiful thing.
Well, the song is absolutely awesome, and when the song blows up to platinum, just let me still use it for free.
You got it, man.
I want to talk more about your background prior to DFS. Have you always lived in California? Where'd you grow up?
Born and raised in Southern California, man.
Awesome. Yep. And then how do you get into the local hip hop scene there?
It was tough, man. I'm born and raised in Orange County. Orange County has always been more rock, punk, and everyone was telling me, well, in order to get noticed, you have to go to LA. You have to go to LA. And I'm just but I live in Orange County. I don't live in LA. there's still distance between Orange County and LA, and I want to represent Orange County. So there was a small scene, but it wasn't really, I think when I was trying to promote or book shows, it was definitely more working with promoters who wanted more rock and punk bands. So, but we made it work, kind of made a scene ourselves. And this is before social media, man. So when we were coming up, the best thing was MySpace music for us. Like, that was the best thing. And having a music player on your MySpace page was like the best thing ever. And so that was it. You were just promoting yourself through MySpace music, and you were just I just would like drive around to venue or meet promoters face to face, and then just kind of talk with them and try to book shows, and then just kind of create a scene that wasn't really huge for Orange County, honestly.
So when you got started, where did it end up taking you? And, one of the things that I love about what you're saying is that, like, you know what, I decided to bet on myself, and what people told me was how it had to be was unacceptable to me. And I was out to prove to them that there's a better way. There's a different way. There's not just one pathway to success. And that's really what I try to, really harp on with DFS. And, talk to us more about, what that hustle taught you about, yourself as a person, as a man, and how you apply that to other things in your life, like DFS.
I think coming up with that formula, like whether you're working on a song or whether you're trying to promote yourself with whatever you're doing, there's a formula behind it. And once you have that formula down, once you figure out the formula for writing one song, it translates into a second, third, fourth. Like, you could just keep writing songs with that same formula. And when you're talking about promoting yourself, once you have that formula down, then you understand how to market and promote yourself. And then you keep doing that moving forward. And you do it really strong in one area. And then once you've worked that area really well, you spread out and you branch out. And it's the same thing that's gotten me into design. It's when I design a logo, there's a formula. When I design a flyer, a poster, social media graphics, like there's a formula to that. And that's why I like about DFS. That's why DFS is so intriguing to me, is once you understand that formula of creating lineups and how to, exactly what Manny's talking about. Like, once you understand how to play the game of DFS, there's a formula behind that. And once you start understanding that formula, it just all started clicking for me. And it's very similar to what I did in music and what I do in design and what I do in DFS. There's a formula that kind of overlaps everything and ties everything together. And for me, I love that because I'm a very organized person. I like to be a perfectionist when it comes to design, when it comes to making music, and when it comes to creating lineups. So it all works for me because that's just my personality.
Now, before we get into more DFS stuff, I want to know, is there anything that stands out the most about your musical career, whether that's the biggest accomplishment or the best moment, or something that was some adversity that challenged you? What's something that you would, say, hey, this was cool. This was the best moment or a great moment, or that one thing that comes to mind immediately in your musical career?
Oh, there's a few things. So I graduated from Cal State Fullerton, and they would always have like live music once or twice a week. And I always wanted to play Cal State Fullerton. Like, that was one of my goals. And I think it took me like 2 years, and I finally was able to play Cal State Fullerton. But I had already graduated at that point. Like, I wanted to play when I graduated, but still got to play after I graduated. So that was really cool. And then another thing is, I took a trip out to Europe, and this is back when you still sold CDs. And so I printed a bunch of CDs of my music. I loaded up a suitcase with my CDs, took it out to Europe. I had looked up record shops before I even went out to Europe, and I was able to get my music in a record shop in Soho, in London, and then in Paris. And while I was in a record shop in Paris, talking to the guy who owned it and talking about music and everything, another guy was there, and he had a bunch of connections throughout Paris too. And he's like, hey, do you want to perform at an open mic tonight? I was like, yes, I would. So somehow like a trip to Europe and then just going out there to kind of get my music into record shops turned into me performing at an open mic night in Paris, which is like, I don't think that, I know it's not, that opportunity would have never happened if it wasn't for music.
I mean, that was way, way more awesome than anything that I anticipated. I mean, but I love it because that's just like what I heard you say is like, you know what, JG, I had an idea and I didn't know if it would work. I wondered if it would work, and I thought to myself, like, you know what? Let me try this. You know, let me just try to blaze this path. You know, let me take this path less traveled. And it's like, dude, like that's my hero of DFS. Beep, I'm a Jeep. That's like what he does. Like that's what we can do in DFS. So I just think that it's so awesome that, you know, you come from a background and have accumulated all these skills that are 100% applicable into DFS. Talk to us how you got into your graphic design company that you run.
So I had always been into art. Like in high school, I took art classes, and then I didn't really know what graphic design was until my first semester in college. And then I was like, you know what, this is what I want to do. I don't want to continue like lugging around a bunch of art supplies. Like everything's on the computer now. Like this is perfect. So I finished graphic design classes at a JC, and then I started working part-time as a graphic designer, and I just kept parlaying that into better opportunities with graphic design. And in the beginning of 2017, I had an opportunity between like networking and freelancing on the side. I was kind of building up my own clientele on the side, and it just worked out to where I was able to go on my own and work full time and have my clients. And so I've been doing that since January 2017. And what has helped me was kind of being in the industry for a while, the pros and cons of being a part of the corporate world. But I've also learned a lot with design, and then stepping out on my own, not having anybody tell me how to design or critiquing my work in a way which wasn't helping me, I've learned so much. It's almost like I started out as a new designer when I went out on my own. Like I've learned so much more about design, and I love it. I love being able to not design for a company anymore, but design for people, design for people who have their own businesses, or design for people who are trying to start a Twitch stream or a podcast, or whatever the endeavors they have. Like I love being a part of that and helping somebody out achieve their vision.
And you do an incredible job, man. We've worked on 5 or 6 projects so far, and you've nailed every single one. Yesterday, we had the opportunity to collaborate on a project where I was just basically the connector and the middle person, and it was just like, you're a total professional at what you do. And it's you know, I'm very much about, you know, connect with other professionals, you know, work with talented people, and then get out of their way. And, you know, going out on your own like you did, it's intimidating. You know, it's really challenging to bet on yourself. But I just am so encouraged by what you did. And for people that are listening to this, my big goal is to help them to be encouraged about betting on themselves, whether that's, you know, investing into DFS, or, hey, you know what, maybe I can do what Sequence and John did and go independent in my field and see if I can build up my own client base and streamline my life a little bit possible, because life comes at you fast. We don't know how long we're going to be on this planet. And, you know, being stuck in jobs that we don't like is, you know, we all have responsibilities, but once you take care of that and you have the opportunity to make the leap, I mean, there's nothing more satisfying, man. So let's talk about at what point, when did you start getting into DFS? How did you come across it? So where tell us about how you got started in DFS.
So it was probably like 6 years ago I got into DFS. A few of my buddies were playing it, and we kind of set up some 3-man leagues, like on on a Sunday here and there for NFL. And then this was also during NBA season. So we would set up a 3-man league for like a few NBA slates a week. And like I was hooked. And then I started following DFS content on Twitter, and I started coming across the Screenshot Life. And I got pulled into the tout sites, and I'm like, wait, I could pay $30-$40 a month and get get advice and get articles from a DFS pro? Like, yes, like sign me up. So I spent a long time just signing up for a tout site for a season or for a month, and then not learning anything, getting frustrated, and then seeing another screenshot for another tout site and then signing up with that. And I kept that going, and it was very frustrating because I don't mind paying for something to learn, but I want to learn. That was the frustrating thing for me, is I was putting money out and I wasn't getting anything in return. And I didn't know who Manny was until this past February. No idea who Manny was until this past February. So I had been doing tout sites for pretty much my whole DFS career until I listened to Adam Levitan's podcast this past February, and Manny was on it. And I was searching. I listened to that podcast, and I never heard anybody talk about DFS the way Manny was talking about DFS. And it was still confusing to me because it didn't really register like what he was actually talking about, because I was so used to tout site content. And then from searching more of his videos on YouTube, I came across your channel, and you were talking about lineup study and Manny as well. And I'm just like, okay, like I have to sign up to lineup study. I have to see what this is all about. So NBA wasn't even on my radar. I signed up to lineup study like on March 1st. And I knew MLB was right around the corner. I knew opening day was right around the corner. So I said to myself, like, I'm going to watch one MLB video of Manny's and then see what it's all about. And I watched that first video, and it just completely changed the game for me. I watched that video. I made a ton of notes. I went through his entire MLB catalog, and I made it a point to watch every single video before opening day. And I did that. I watched every single video. I made a ton of notes to every single video. And by the time opening day came around, like, I was ready. For years, I was just playing the 80-20 rule or mainly cash games. Had no idea how to even make 150 lineups. Had no idea how to download a CSV from DraftKings or FanDuel and then even get 150 lineups to a CSV and upload it again. Like, I had no idea about that. And then I spent March was like the turning point. I learned how to mass enter. I learned how to do MME. I don't play cash games anymore. So this all happened in March. Like, really, like when you break it down how long I've been following DFS until now, everything turned the corner in March.
So what would you say, if you had to pinpoint a couple of things that you noticed from what you were doing before to those light bulb moments that you felt like you went from more of a casual player to a more informed player that could actually, do some damage in a tournament?
Just like everything you and Manny talk about, like I think a lot of it has to do with confidence. Like bankroll management was something I was familiar with because I got into sports betting before DFS. So bankroll was never really an issue for me. But just having confidence, like I had no confidence following top sites. Like, I wasn't learning anything. And in 1 month, I learned more than in like 4 years of following tout sites. And that gave me so much confidence to just day one, opening day, I was maxed in during tournaments. Like, and this is coming from a guy who was like playing 1 to 2 to 3 lineups a night. 2 of those, like all 3 of those lineups in cash, and then taking 1 of those lineups and throwing them in a GPP. And like, and then getting nowhere, like over time. And so I think just putting yourself in a position to learn and get better and have confidence. And like you said with your Beep I'm a Jeep series, like, don't be afraid to lose. Like, I don't play above my means. Like, I play every day, and if I lose what I put in that day, then I'm not gonna get emotional about it. So I think if you come up with that mindset, you put yourself in a better position to be successful.
Well, I think it can be very challenging and intimidating building 150 lineups. That's my preferred method. When I first started it, I thought it was excess, it was overkill, and that was, more than anything, I was jealous, and I was using it as an excuse of, what, those guys only win because they can afford to put in 150 entries, and then, they would clap back and say, yeah, if you think that's the case, like, why don't you try it? And then I started trying it, and now I kind of laugh at the idiot that I was, thinking the things that I did, which was, coming from a place of jealousy. So talk to us about the mental transition from moving from a couple of entries into multi lineup entry, because I think that it's very intimidating for most players because they think that they don't really understand it, or it's too much money, or it's overkill. And I just think it's just the most peaceful way to play with having better control for what you're expecting out of your experience and your results.
Yeah, I love it too. And I mean, I spent time on YouTube just kind of like watching how to fill out your CSV, like how to crunch 150 lineups and like how to export them properly. And I just keep doing it over and over. And once you just kind of get used to it, it's not as intimidating as it seems. And I remember making a huge rookie mistake, like right in the very beginning. It was like I was going to play early slate on a Saturday before my wife and I got ready to go do stuff. And I was only going to play 20 lineups that day. So I crunched 20 lineups. I exported them. I went to upload them in DraftKings, and I got 20 errors. And so I'm freaking out because there's like 4 minutes left till slate locks at this point. And I don't understand what happened. I'm thinking it's a FC bug. So I'm going back in DraftKings, and I'm trying to manually change these lineups as fast as I can. And I change as many as I can. And then I go back in FC, and I realized I exported my crunch as a main slate instead of the early slate. So it's just something like that that's kind of woke me up to just like kind of pay more attention when you are exporting your lineups. But once you learn how to do it, it shouldn't be that intimidating anymore.
Well, and I think so much about learning to play this game is not about figuring out what to do as much as it is eliminating what not to do. What you just, it's almost like what you experienced, you have to do at some point as like a qualification of being a good player. Like, I can't tell you how many times that's happened to me. Just to go on a little sidebar, 2 years ago, I did the exact same thing on Christmas Day. And my wife is ready to open presents, and I had just been hustling all month long trying to get tickets into the big NBA game, and I think I had close to like $400 in tickets, and I submitted the wrong. It was back before it was the year that they took away late swap in the NBA, and so I submitted non-late swap lineups like 5 minutes before lock, and it was like, I was so pissed and tilting, and just like my wife's trying to enjoy opening presents, and I'm just being a total dickhead because I'm just more pissed about, these lineups and it's just like one of those things. It's like you can be bitter or you can be better. And, that's a learning experience, and we had a good laugh about it this year. And, you look at something like that and it's like, okay, the immediate temptation is to blame someone or blame something, when the reality is we need to look internally at what we could have done better. And, that's why I set alarms now all of the time. And you could look at what you did and just be like, you know what, it should have never come down to that. And that's on me. And I'm going to, channel this into a positive way and be reminded that it's almost like you have to feel that pain to not make that mistake again. Very few people change because things are going well. And that's the joke that I always talk about with my site is, if you're here, something went bad for you. So, I appreciate that you can acknowledge, hey, that was a mistake that I made. That's on me. And, it's just part of learning the game, getting better, studying the game, but also mastering your tools like you're doing. And I just really appreciate that. Earlier in the podcast, you talked about just creating a formula for success, and it sounds like that's what you're doing with your DFS game. Having started in March, with this being your first full MLB season, treating this like a professional, how would you say that it's been going for you so far?
It's been going great. I have like a 35% ROI. That ROI would be better. I started playing heavy on FanDuel to start the season. I was like maxing out the pinch hit, and it wasn't going so well. I think the second day opening day I lost. The second day of the MLB season, I hit like sixth place in the pinch hit, and then for like 2 weeks after that, I just was on a losing streak. And so then I started kind of spending more time on DK, and I've been having more success with DK. So overall, it's a 35% ROI. I think it would be better if I just went back in my spreadsheet and just pulled out DK contests and not all those FanDuel losses. But I'm still trying to learn FanDuel. I'm still on Rewind trying to figure out FanDuel. But I'm having a blast, man. Like March, I've learned so much in March. I have so much confidence now. I'm looking forward to, I know NFL is right around the corner, then NBA and NHL. And I'm looking forward to playing all those sports. And your YouTube series on CFL got me into CFL now. So, I mean, here's a guy who knows nothing about CFL playing every CFL slate every week and loving it, like having a blast.
Well, and not just having a blast, you had a score the second week that you won a tournament, and we were talking about it, and I was like, and I hate doing this because I think it's a real dickhead move, and I wasn't trying to be a jerk when I pointed this out, but I was like, dude, like that was the best score across the board, and you're exercising the good bankroll management. When you're able to play in the $10 level, and that's why we exercise good bankroll management, is because we want to slowly move up. Like, you would have won 10 grand with that lineup, and that can be really frustrating. And when people point that out to you, some of the times they do it out of a place of jealousy. I was doing it out of a place of encouragement. Like, dude, like, you're 100% on the right path. Like, you picked this thing up so quickly. And again, like, let's not forget what CFL does for us. It provides us an opportunity to practice our cruncher skills and our football building skills for the NFL. Most players are neglecting putting in the work on a 4-man, a 2-man slate, and that's all that CFL is. So I just love that you're rising to every challenge, and you don't have a bad attitude about what you could have won with what you did. You're just accepting your progress as it comes and just looking at it as, when other people are upset about how that transpired or what could have been, you're just like, dude, this is a great sign. Like, I'm headed in the right direction, and that's 100% the right attitude. And that's one of the things that I really appreciate about working with you. And whenever we're working together, I don't really like spending my time with the people that are just like doom and gloom, or I'm losing again and I can't lose. And it's like, I'm sorry, this is working because I'm talking to a lot of players that are putting in the work. So, you see this in your music hustle. You see this in running a business. Like, you cannot cut corners and expect to be successful. So I just commend you on having that beginner's mindset and just approaching everything with, you know what, I don't know if this is going to work. I wonder if it could work. Let's tinker until we can get it to a place that it works. Let's tap into that formula of success that has helped you out in other areas of your life.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think that's like, working for yourself is a different type of hustle. Like, and like, I want to learn and I want to get better. Like, I'm in lineup study right now watching NBA videos. I'm in lineup study right now watching NFL videos. Like, so by the time I watched the 1 or 2 videos Manny had on NHL. So by the time those seasons come around, like, I'm ready. Day one, like, I'm ready to go. And you're right, CFL has been, I've never played NFL before on my own. So now CFL is giving me an idea of what to expect when NFL comes around. And I already have confidence with building football lineups and crunching 150 football lineups. So hopefully that can translate well for me when the NFL does come around.
And I think it will, because what I'm seeing from your past performance is very indicative of how I think it's going to go for you moving forward. I know you're going to put in the work. I know you're going to be spending the time away from playing the game, and they're both equally important. You need to be playing, you need to be studying. And, I was watching Petty Theft's stream yesterday, and that's one of the things that he was talking about. He's like, the game is ever evolving, and if you don't adapt, you die. So, you already have the right formula of success for this thing. I talk about DFS is very, very simple. It comes down to three principles. Number one is being able to put in the work, which you're doing. Number two, being able to manage the bankroll, which you're doing. And number three, having the patience to see it through. And it's really, that's it. Everything else that you pick up, like Manny says, learning to play the game is relatively easy. It's all the stuff that goes into it that most people are overlooking or aren't doing. And I'm just so excited for you, man, because I see your growth as a player. And I see where you're going, and I look at, the development of my own career, and I'm like headed into this NFL season, and I was like, I don't know how I ever thought I could have been profitable in NFL with doing all the bad crap that I was doing before. And for you to be as good of a player as you already are, having just committed a few months to being serious about it, like, sky's the limit for you, man. Like, you're going to lap the people that you're looking up to and then some, because of your ethic, because of your formula for success, and just sticking to it. You had mentioned, I hit a little bit of a losing streak on FanDuel. And so what did you do? Did you piss and moan? No, you adapted, you adjusted, you looked for a different path to victory. So can you talk to us a little bit more? Because that's one of the things that I really want to help casual players is, like, when you are losing, don't bitch and complain, figure out a way to get better, and don't blame other things for why you're losing. Just accept what you could have done better and move forward. Talk to us about your process when things aren't going well, whether that's in DFS or music or running your business, because that can be the real challenging, is the things that punch us in the face and threaten to put us down. Most of the time success in life is just rising, getting up off that mat one more time. So talk to us about how, maybe what you've learned overcoming adversity in the past, and how you attribute that to getting better as a DFS player when things aren't going well.
Yeah, I think with DFS, like, a lot of it is out of your hands. Like, lineup construction is what you can control. And then once you put those into play, like, you have no control. Like, everything that happens, like, on that baseball field is out of your hands. So there's no point in getting, sure, we could tilt, but you shouldn't get so worked up over something that's completely out of your hands. And then, I had a bad week last week, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to scale back. Like, I'm not going to crunch 150 lineups this week. I'm going to just start crunching. I'm just going to do 120 max tournament today. And I'm just going to really focus on making, like, the best 20 lineups I can. And it's like, I have no problem scaling back. I don't have to do 150 every single slate, especially if things aren't going well. Now, if I'm up, sure. But if things aren't going well, like, I don't mind taking a step back or taking a day off, taking 2 days off, especially with a sport like baseball where it's every single day. So just kind of like taking a step back, regrouping, making some notes, like going back through your lineups the day after and picking out the pros and cons, or maybe just variance took over. Like, maybe you made 150 great lineups or 20 great lineups in a 20 max, and it just didn't go your way. And, like, that's going to happen. So just continue to keep, like you always preach, you always say, like, the big winning day is right around the corner. So don't get emotional. Don't, like, oh, I'm going to play 300 in a G tonight and try to get my money back. Like, just stay cool and just, like, keep playing. But if you have to scale back, like, that's fine. And like you said, your big win, your big profitable day is right around the corner. And that big profitable day, like you say, can wipe out a losing month or several losing weeks. Like, it's definitely possible. And that's a great thing about playing GPPs, is you can win a lot of money in one slate.
And that's really the truth, man. It's one of the things that I'm struggling with is, I've got a timeline on my career. I'm going to have to move up in about 6 to 8 months. And so I'm just really trying to, save as much money as I can to make sure that I have the bankroll to overcome the variance that I'm looking at. And, anytime I have success, it's very much like, okay, like, I've turned the corner and now I'm rounding third base and I can head home and I've got this thing. and then I'll just get completely dropped by something that I wasn't anticipating, or I was overconfident. And it's almost like clockwork. Like, I'll run good, and then I'll be overconfident, and I'll blow off more money than I should have, and be playing better than I more than I should. And it's just like, as much as I stress it to other people, like, it's still very much a struggle for me as well. And what you just said is, like, there's nothing wrong with scaling back. You know, I got punched in the face the last 2 weeks, the worst 2 weeks of my career, immediately followed by the best 3-day run I've ever had. And that's just how it's going to go with DFS. And, you know, I tried to, you know, push through it a little bit more than I should have and cost myself money. But, you know, I was able to, you know, you're always talking about the importance of networking. I tapped into my network and, you know, bounced off what I was thinking and feeling with them, and it helped recalibrate my brain, and took some time to just kind of examine my process like you're talking about doing. And it was really humbling because I had to take a step back. You know, the bankroll management plan that I created, you know, that's one of the things that, you know, I was talking with other guys about. It's like, how do I know if this thing is any good if I haven't had to challenge it through some adversity? And so it's going to end up being a blessing in disguise, because I was playing with too much money, and I was playing for the first time in almost over a year. I was feeling fear. And we always talk about, you know, if you're feeling fear, it's almost 100% related to how much money you have in play. So, you know, the fact that you're doing this early in your career, it's remarkable, man. It took me, I've been playing DFS since 2013, and I'm barely figuring this out the last, you know, 12 to 18 months out of necessity, because I didn't want to have to go back to my corporate job that I hated so much. So I'm just thrilled to hear this, man. It's so nice working with people that are not trying to do the get rich. They're taking that slow burn. They're, you know, the number one thing that I heard you say is, I'm having fun. Like, that's so important. Anytime I feel like I'm struggling, I'm always having to be like, yo, JG, man, you got to have fun first, man. And we see it so much with, like, our these athletes that we follow. The guys that are dominating in the sports are usually the guys that are having the most fun, and not the guys that are nervous and worried about their job. So I just think you've just got that professional mindset so early in your career, man, that it's going to take you so far. And, you know, you mentioned something that I do want to touch on also, as you said, you know, I do something, you know, to recharge. I take a couple of days off. What does that look like for you when you feeling burnt out, whether that's with work, or working on something musically, or playing DFS? What's something that you do to step away and get recharged, recentered before moving forward to attack again?
Like, there's a few things, like reading, working out, or just like a weekend getaway with the wife. Like, we love to go to San Diego for like a few days, or down to the beach, and it's just for me, because a lot of, like, making music, designing, and DFS is all done inside. It's all done in a room. So, like, if I can get outside and just, like, take a few days off and be outside, like, that does wonders for me. Like, just because just being confined to a space, and yeah, just the element of being outside, like, does a lot for me, and it recharges my batteries, and it clears my head, and like, a few days of that, or just even one day or a few hours, like, during a busy day, like, just getting outside for me does a lot.
That's awesome, man. I want to talk about, you know, you've mentioned several times, you know, that your wife's very involved in your success and anything that you've been doing. What is your support system like that helps you do this so much? And what does your family feel, or your family, your friends, how do they feel about you consistently betting on yourself to make things happen? You know, that is not, it's for us risk takers, it's easy. Typically risk takers end up dating or marrying people that aren't risk takers. So I don't know if that's the case for you, but what's your support system like that helps keep you going forward when you know, you're not so sure if this is a good endeavor or not, because there's so much risk involved?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I have great support. My family and friends have always backed my music, like have always supported my music endeavors. And yeah, now like my wife, she supports everything I do, and she understands that if I do something or if I get into something, like I'm going to give it 100%, like, and I'm going to work hard at it, and I'm going to learn as much as I can about it to be successful at it. And I remember, so one of my big hits this MLB season was binking the table setter. And I never had that feeling before. Like I never looked at my DK screen on my phone and saw that much money before. Like, and it was exhilarating. And, I remember showing her the screenshot. I'm like, babe, look how much I won. She's like, is that real money? And I'm like, yeah, that's real money. So like after talking to her, because she doesn't know about DFS, like, right. I mean, she knows about fantasy sports, but she doesn't know about the intricacies. And like, people actually make real money doing this, and they make great money doing this, and it's possible. So just kind of explaining to her and just kind of talking to her about like what I've learned in such a short amount of time. Like she's a huge supporter. She's just like, all right, if that's real money, then like keep bringing it in. So yeah, I've been very fortunate and very blessed and thankful to have like friends, family, and a loving wife, like who all support everything I'm into.
And that's so cool, man, because you getting to experience that is why I'm such a big fan of, people like Manny that are helping us become better players, and me now trying to do my part to help them, because it literally changed my life, and, this is providing an additional avenue for you to have more freedom in your life, to spend time with your family and do things that you love. And you're right, man, there's no better feeling than when that happens. And I just want to, you're not going to tell anybody this, but I'm going to share the story. When that happened, you reached out to me and you were just like, thank you so much for your help. And I was like, dude, that all I did was kind of lay the foundation. You had to put in the work. And you were like, hey, I would like to, give you some money or, tip you. And I was like, it's really not necessary. DFS has done, a great, done so much for me. It's not necessary. And you're like, dude, I really got to do something for you. It's important for me to pay this forward or pay this back. And I was like, you know what? There's a couple of charities that I support. And, if you are going to give money away and you're in the giving spirit, like, please support one of these. And you were all about it. Like, you did it right away. And it's just like, it's so refreshing to see somebody with as much gratitude that you have. Gratitude is the healthiest human emotion. And the fact that you did something that was such a big accomplishment in your life and you were immediately thinking about other people. I don't think there's anything cooler than that, man.
So that was like, that made me feel better than actually binking. Like, because now I can see like, hey, if I could, binking's not like, you can't do that continuously, but like, I'm just saying like good profitable days, like, I would love to profit more so I can give back more. And that's such a great feeling too. And, no, it's not a coincidence. The day on Twitter where you open your DMs and say, hey, anybody wants to hit me up, my DMs are open. I shot like 3 questions at you and you wrote detailed, thorough responses back to me. And this was like a few hours before lock. And I kept rereading your answers. And I'm just like, I kept scanning over your answers. And I'm like, man, this just makes so much sense. And, yes, that was the night I binked the table setter. So there's no coincidence, JG. Like the day you offered to help was like one of my biggest nights in the MLB season. So thank you, man, because you allowed me the opportunity to ask you some questions about things.
It's really my pleasure, and I get hit up pretty often for, can you do coaching? Will you do coaching? And it's like, you know what? It's not something I necessarily feel that right about, because number one, there's much more qualified people than I am. But the thing that I am willing to do is have conversations with people that I know are putting in the work, because, more than anything, I'm a fan of this game. And it's important to me to master the craft. And when I get interactions with people that want to put in the same kind of work, it's like somebody pulled me up to the level that I'm at, and I'm happily going to, extend that same invitation to other people that are wanting to get better, because it's very challenging to, like you said in the beginning of our conversation, how many dollars and hours did you waste on tout sites? That was no different for me. And I was just getting sick and tired of these people that, most of the time are not winning players. They might have a couple big screenshots, but there's spreadsheets that are readily available throughout the community on multiple channels that tell exactly how these guys are performing. So we're seeing a change as a whole in the industry. And, we have pioneers like Manny, who's already blazed the path for someone like me. And, that's what I think about too with DFS. It's not about the money for me. The money's nice, but it's the freedom. It's the good that I can do with this money. It's being able to help someone out that needs it, and be able to give to them generously without being like, how hard I work for this money and blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's such a wrong attitude, and it's gross. And I just think that, through this platform that I now have, if I can change one life at a time through DFS, and you're going to turn around and you're going to touch 3 people and change their lives or make their days better or whatever, like the compound effect that this thing can have. I know that sounds corny or silly or whatever, but it's just like playing this game and being involved in this community is so much bigger to me than just, slapping some things together on a spreadsheet and hope I bink.
No, I agree. Everything you said is very true. And, I wouldn't change a thing the past few years. I think tout sites would have always been intriguing just for the simple fact of seeing these screenshots and all right, I had to sign up. I had to see what this is all about. But luckily I didn't get in over my head. I never had too many subs or wasted so much money. I'm glad, in a way, I'm glad I signed up to every tout site out there and finally realized they're all the same, and I'm not learning, and I'll never, now I know I'll never sign up to another tout site. It's just that simple. So it's it could have been a really expensive learning curve for me, but thankfully it wasn't. And I'm glad it sort of happened that way, to where, because I think following tout sites for so many years makes me truly appreciate what you are talking about and what Manny is talking about. And if I just came across JG or Manny and you guys were the first, my first point of contacts with DFS, I don't know if I would have really truly absorbed what you guys are talking about.
Well, it's funny because sometimes I'll get reached out by people and they'll approach me in such a way that I'm like, I don't think you're there, man. I think you need to feel some more pain before you're finally going to listen to what I'm suggesting. And, so I think it's so refreshing to hear your attitude of, we can look at things happening to us, and whether, it's the universe or God or whatever, and you just want to be like, this happened, so now it's a waste. And I just love how you're like, what, this happened and I don't regret it. This worked out the way that it's supposed to have worked out. And that's how I feel as well about the things that maybe the way that I would have designed it is not that way, but look at all this other stuff going this other direction, this other path that led me here. And, the fact that you reached a point where you are at peak frustration, and then you almost hit that point of enlightenment of there's got to be a better way. And you found it, and you're blazing your own path, and you're it's just so exciting, man. Because you're giving me a ton of credit, and I appreciate that, but it's really not me, man. All I'm doing is just giving you the tools, and hey, this is what I've done, and you're like, you know what, I like that about this. I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna do it my way, and the being able to help a player like you, and there's a tout site. We all know what those are. And then there's, a content site. And I'm really trying to help move people to the direction of supporting the content sites, the sites that are actually helping us get better, promoting positivity in the community. And it's guys that are actually winning players that we should be getting our money. Right now it's football season, and everybody's talking about who they're going to team up with for football season for their content. And one guy reached out to me, about this guy who has a site, and I'm not going to put anybody on blast, but he's like, oh, dude, are you going to review this site? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to. And he's like, why not? Like, this guy writes amazing articles. And I'm like, I know he does, but he's also a losing player. And then, someone on Twitter was sharing screenshots of how people are doing this season. And this player had lost almost six figures. And it's like, this is why I'm doing this. I don't have a huge audience, but I really want to just continue to lay the foundation for other players of like, hey, invest in yourself, invest in your business, and do it with the right people that are doing the right thing. So, like you just totally bought in, man. And I just love everything about your approach and your attitude. And, every time we chat, you're just like, dude, like we're going to work on so much stuff together. Like, I'm so glad our paths have crossed, and I feel the same way about you, buddy.
Oh man, like, yeah, we are, man. This is just the start. And, I think, going back to your points is like, now I understand what DFS noise is. Now I know through Twitter or through websites, like now I know how to filter out the noise and between what's good content and bad content. And if it wasn't for, my experiences the prior few years, like I wouldn't know what DFS noise is. And also put it this way, like if I got frustrated and just quit DFS, like I wouldn't be on this podcast right now. I would have never met you. I would have never like came across Manny. So like just it doesn't matter what field you're in, you're going to be frustrated. You're going to have downtime or downswings, bad times. Just stick with it because you don't know what could happen a year from now or just even a few months from now. Like you don't know what can happen. And if I would have given up, then like these new connections I'm making wouldn't be possible.
Amen, man. That's awesome. I couldn't have said what you said any better. Like you nailed it. And I want to thank you again. Before we let you go, tell us everything you got going on, where we can find you, how can we hire you for our graphic work, where can we find your music, where can we find you on Twitter. The next couple minutes here, or just promote yourself to no end, brother.
All right. I see the hashtag on the Twitch screen. Sequence the SE. I'm at Sequence the SE on Twitter. SequenceTheSE.com has all my music. And then my graphic design work is on ChrisMorenoDesign.com. ChrisMoreno Design.com. I have a contact form on there, and so you can fill out that contact form and reach me if you need any design services. But yeah, between Twitter, music, design, that's where you could find me.
And this is A+ grade A work, everybody, at very affordable rates. And, just to tell you a quick little story about my first interaction with Sequence on the design level. I went the Fiverr route, and I had worked with 4 or 5 designers. Only one of them did anything worthwhile. And the designs that they were doing, they're quoting me like $15. It was whatever. And, I started working with Sequence on some projects, and he quoted me the price, and that was within the budget. And then he sent me like 12 different designs and let me pick from them. So if you start doing the math of what he sent to me per design, the value that he added to the project was so much better than anything that I was finding on Fiverr. And not only that, we're working on a couple other designs, and I'm basically giving him like the roughest idea in my head, and he's just taking it and running with it. And we're going to be launching a second podcast feed here pretty soon that is going to be the audio from all of the YouTubes that we're doing for people to just be able to listen in their car or on their phone, refreshing on anything. And we got another project for Sequence to do a slight rendition of the podcast artwork. So anybody that's thinking about design work or needing anything like that, I give my full vote of confidence for everything that Sequence does. It's, he doesn't half-ass anything, doesn't cut any corners. And if you're dissatisfied in any way, he goes back to the drawing board until it's perfect for you. So Sequence, I thank you so much, man. This has been a total blast. It was very important for me to get you on right away with all of the awesome feedback we've been getting about the song and the logos, and it's an absolute joy to work with you, man.
Likewise, JG. Thank you so much. Thank you for the kind words. thank you for having me on the podcast. And again, thank you for everything you're doing to helping us become better DFS players.
My pleasure.
Really
man.
appreciate it.
My pleasure, man. Well, everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be doing another podcast later this week. We'll be banging out some of the football previews. And then once I get done with the football previews, we'll get back into the YouTube videos and start dissecting football and seeing what we can do to be better players. Thank you, everybody that tuned into the Twitch stream. And we'll get this up on YouTube as soon as possible and out to all the podcasting networks right away. So I appreciate you guys so much. We'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully, potentially, fingers crossed, with a special guest, one of the big boys in the nosebleed stakes that just rakes. So very excited about that. Thank you guys again. I'll see you guys the next time. God bless.